Good day and greetings from South Africa. It is my pleasure to address you on the invitation of the President of FAUBAI, Professor Nona Meyer. This week, I would have been at the FAUBAI conference. It would have been my 5th FAUBAI conference, and it would have been a true pleasure to have met you at this conference. But as you know, we are in the middle of a global crisis that prevents us from meeting. So it is my pleasure to bring you some of my comments that I will share with you today. In this COVID era, there are a number of issues that we are looking at, and these are some of the questions that Professor Nona Meyer has posed to us. The first she asks is about perspectives around what changes we can envisage for higher education in terms of new formats for teaching and learning, the challenges of the virtual space, and internationalization of higher education. So let me start with the new formats of teaching and learning. I think the formats of teaching and learning will become more variable going forward. We will rely on technology-driven formats, but equally, I think it will be going back to basics to look at what works as a pedagogy. It will be about addressing the needs of the student and not just about technology for the sake of technology. I think during this era, we have seen that the challenges in providing instruction and instructional material to all our students is not easy. We need to look at the principle of individualization and reach out to as many students as possible. And that leads me to the point of the challenges around virtual approaches. The inequalities that we see amongst our students manifest very much within the challenges that we find in delivering virtual learning experiences. These challenges start with the type of appropriate devices that they may have, and this is a huge inequality, the high cost of data, as well as the different levels of connectivity in different geographic regions. Also, the living conditions that our students find themselves in vary very considerably, and this has a huge impact on virtual learning because our students live in environments that are not all conducive to virtual engagement. The university campus is sometimes what it takes to level the playing fields. And when students study in a home environment that is so different, these inequalities again rise as a huge challenge. What about the internationalization of higher education? I don't think the internationalization of higher education will ever be the same. Certainly, the need for the internationalization of higher education is one that has become more apparent going forward. The need for collaboration, the need for engagement, the need for working together and finding global solutions to global challenges, as well as finding local solutions to global challenges and global solutions to local challenges will all come into sharp focus. The need for us to work together as a collective, the need for us to bring our forces together for a better world will become even more important. When I was the president of IEASA, it was my pleasure to host the first global dialogue in the internationalization of higher education. Out of this came the Nelson Mandela Bay Declaration. This declaration has lots to offer in us taking the internationalization of higher education forward in an equitable manner. We need to actually break the shackles of some of the models of internationalization that prevent us from bringing internationalization to all our students, all our staff, and making internationalization something that benefits all our citizens. So inclusivity and equity become very important principles in the delivery of internationalization of higher education. The next question that I was asked to comment on is around the challenges for higher education in Latin America. This is a more challenging question for me to engage in, largely because I'm not a native of Latin America, and I look at Latin America very much from the outside. But if I were to look at the challenges, one of the biggest would be around equity and access to higher education, about allowing higher education to be that conduit that allows social mobility, that allows socioeconomic strata to become more fluid and allow people upward mobility, to allow students to be the best that they can be, not just because of factors of affordability, but ability and merit being the driving forces, getting the best minds into higher education, and then allowing those minds to take higher education to the heights that they belong, that they ought to be taken to. One of the other challenges that I would envisage is about equity of provision, ensuring that throughout Latin America, the quality of higher education is actually set at minimum standards, and and quality assurance measures are in place to ensure that these minimum standards are adhered to. The portability of credits become really important, something that will allow intra-Latin American mobility and allow students to move from one part of Latin America to the other seamlessly and to continue with higher degrees in other parts of the region. The last question that Professor Meyer posed to us is about what will international mobility look like post the COVID crisis. I think this will be a time of great reflection. It will be a time when internationalization comes into sharp focus. I think mobilities will be shorter, they will be far more selective, and they will be far more focused. There will be a clear alignment for the value that international mobility brings to achieving graduate attributes. What can mobility in internationalization do for that student? Is it mobility for the sake of mobility, or are we achieving graduate attributes that are essential for that student? Summer and winter schools, I believe, will become far more important. These will be focused and they will address some key issues. Key amongst them will be issues like global citizenship, intercultural competence, and an appreciation for that which is different and embracing plurality. Becoming true global citizens is an essential part of us taking the world forward in the post-COVID era. And key for me in academic mobility is about producing a future generation of leaders not just in political and business spaces, not just in religious spaces, but leaders in every sphere and level of society, leaders that can make a difference both locally, regionally, and internationally, leaders that can change the world and make it a better place. It's been my pleasure to engage with you on these questions. I wish you well during this crisis, and I look forward to seeing you at a future FAUBAI conference. I have many friends in Brazil that I see at this conference, as well as the other large international conferences, and I look forward to the day that we shall meet again. Until then, take care and be well.